In Brussels, thousands of people have rallied against the regulations and a possible vaccine mandate. There have also been demonstrations in other European countries, including Austria, the Netherlands and Croatia. Despite these demonstrations, governments are looking at curbing the fourth wave with lockdowns and restrictions. Coronavirus cases are seemingly out of control in some countries here in Europe, but huge differences exist in infection rates across the continent. Spain and Italy, two countries hit hard at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, are coping with this latest coronavirus wave relatively well. It's a very different picture here in Germany or neighboring Austria, where a national lockdown begins on Monday. The WHO has warned Europe to act fast to avoid hundreds of thousands of coronavirus deaths. Let's talk to DW reporter Pablo Foley-Elias. Hello, Pablo. Thanks for your time. So, different countries are using different methods to tackle COVID. Tell us more.
Right, well, we could start by breaking it down into different areas. Some countries have higher vaccination rates. We've heard this spoken about time and time again. We've seen the images there in Austria. We've heard that's happening here in Germany, where the rate is lower than in many other countries in Western Europe, such as Spain and Italy, or Ireland, where the number of people who are vaccinated is around the 80% mark, or even higher in some cases, whereas here in Germany, it's not even at 70%. So that's one area. But then again, there are also differences in how people go about their lives too. There is huge differences with regards to, for example, mask wearing, depending on where you are. Now, two countries that I know very well, Ireland and Spain, will be two good examples. Two countries with high vaccination rates, but two countries with very different approaches to mask wearing and other social distancing measures. In Spain, it's quite common for people to still wear their masks, even on the street in many instances. Indoors, for example, people still wear their masks. And in fact, the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, even said that the best way to beat this pandemic is by a combination of having very high vaccination rates, which they do, and people still wearing masks as well, which is something that, when you compare it to countries like Germany or Austria, we're not seeing to the same degree. So that's essentially what's happening.
Exactly. So what more needs to be done then?
Right. Well, what's interesting is what the WHO is saying. In some ways, they're echoing areas of what I've just touched on. And I think what we should do, before we talk about this any further, is actually hear from Hans Kluge from the WHO. He spoke with our colleagues earlier this morning. So let's take a listen.
We know what needs to be done. Let's look to Portugal. Let's look to Spain. They implement what I call vaccination plus. There are 5 stabilizers. Number 1 are the masks. Immediately, a mask mandate will have a very positive effect. Second, ventilation. Third is the vaccination itself. We have to work with behavioral scientists to convince the people, with influencers on the youth, and make really use of the passports. The next one then is treatment protocols. We have new drugs. We need to have standardized treatment protocols. And finally, the boosters.
So, Eddie, not a simple solution there. But interesting what he's saying is, apart from the fact that we need those boosters as well, we need people to get vaccinated, but also we still need to wear masks. And we still need to have, for example, this glass screen perhaps here between us, and to take other measures such as ventilation. It's sort of the same message that we had a year ago in many respects.
So what lessons can we take from all this, really?
Well, I think what we have to learn from this is that the vaccines are not the only solution to dealing with this situation that we have here. Obviously, in countries like Germany here and in Austria, and, for example, in neighbouring countries like the Czech Republic, the vaccination rate needs to increase drastically. Medics have been saying that the difference between having close to 70% of the population vaccinated and 80%, which is the case and even higher in Portugal and Spain, is vast, because we're talking about a significant difference between the number of people circulating in the country with infections.
Pablo Foley-Elias, thank you very much.